Whoa. Hello. Look at this. Dragon's Lair. It is almost filled. How many of you remember when I dug that out for Trinity's birthday present? We had a nice double mattress down there and a fireplace in the corner with a cast iron front. I have a bunch of those new old stock 1880s cast iron faces of fireplaces. That rhymes. Hey. This is a story today about all those packages I've been talking about. Why I'm talking about trying to get those in the hands of all of you. And at this point, it's the people on Facebook, because I'm trying to go ahead and communicate with you first, but they never show anybody. Isn't that crazy? I can't tell who's on there right now. There's a bunch of problems with this platform for me. I don't know why. Not for everybody else for some reason. At least that's what the trolls tell me. It's not a problem for anybody else. But anyway, here's the point. I'll transfer this over to YouTube later. And then I'll also, I guess, apparently people want it on Instagram, but I don't know much about Instagram. I'm trying to get it out there to everybody that you can get all you can carry loads designed around what you need. Pickup truck, trailer, gooseneck, box trailers, semi-trucks. And at probably a quarter of the price you'll find anywhere. As much as you can pack on, they'll help you design something if you want to do the house. Windows, doors, flooring, siding, as much metal siding as possible because it's fireproof, it's radiation resistant, it's got a lot of benefits, and it's inexpensive. So you can go ahead and put it up fast and save labor, the most expensive part. I want to go ahead and try to teach people how to do this, but I haven't been successful at being able to find people to go ahead and carry on this business. And as you all know, who pay attention, my son's passed, and he'd be 35 now. And unfortunately, there's not a lot of 35 and under year kids that I can entrust this to as I would him. If he were here, I'd sell it to him. So I'm going to try to sell it to a group of people. That didn't work. So what I'm doing instead is liquidating a huge warehouse, one of the largest collections. Oh, Rocky time. Man, that dog can swim. He adopted me about 3 years ago, came to my front door, scratched on it. Looked like he had just been abused and everything. I didn't know why, and it turned out his fangs had been chopped off, ground off. They were going to feed him to the other pit bulls, and apparently he jumped out of the truck on his way to Houston and decided to come live with me. Greatest friend I ever had. Anyway, I want to go ahead and talk to you about all the digging and everything that I did. Some of it I have possession of, some of it I've lost possession of, but the whole idea is my intention is to create sort of a trust. So I'm selling off all the stuff over there, and there's huge warehouses. It's worth a ton of money. It's just, I don't want to do business anymore. And I wanted younger people to do the business, and it hasn't happened. So I want to go ahead and provide this opportunity to start outposts all over. That's where you can have communities where some of the kids that maybe are going to need to have homes, and you know how I feel about the wonderful, wonderful chance for babies that would otherwise be aborted who are in the fallopian tubes and through various reasons will make it into existence. And I'm a big believer that they're coming for a reason. Just like this, they're spiritual beings and they come for something, and part of it's to love us and to let us know that, you know, it isn't just everybody or everything that you think is a being. It's critters like this. And so when I find out that somebody's abused it, I get really upset. Why? Because they're my babies, and they're everybody's babies. So I have chickens, and I have rabbits, and I eat eggs, but I don't really like eating and killing my chickens. Here we go. Ready? Okay, watch. He's learned how to cross that bridge. It took him a while, but he always figures out the fastest route to it. If it means jumping and swimming, he does that. Or if he thinks he can run around, he does that. Like people. That's deep out there, by the way. That's like 10 foot deep right now. It'd be 12 foot deep when it's done. So you can dive off either of these rocks and not have any chance of hitting the ground. It took me a few weeks to dig it all out. But my objective was, I've been given a vision that there'd be rocks down here that I could do caves on. But there's also rocks up above, over there, and over there. And did you know in Texas, lo and behold, one of the loopholes, if you haven't taken my loopholeology classes that are pretty much free on my videos, that not very many people watch, but it teaches you how to not have to pay taxes. So it turns out in Texas, not only is it cooler in the summertime and warmer in the wintertime to live under a rock that hail can't hurt and can't cave in the side of a hill with glass on the front doors and wood floors and wooden walls made out of beautiful paneled doors and a rock ceiling, and that's not a house in Texas. You can't tax that because it's just a hole in the ground. Now, how big is a hole? You know, there's an old joke. I don't tell many jokes. But this is not known by... Oh, I don't know. It's not... Here you go. If it takes 7 men, 7 days to dig 7 holes, this is a riddle. 7 days for 7 men to dig 7 holes. How long does it take 1 man to dig half a hole? Now, I'll give you a couple seconds while I talk about it. This that you're looking at is a hole. I built that up, probably 6 feet, 8 feet at least on that side. And behind me, I built it up 40 feet. Easily 40 feet. On the other side of that is an interstate highway, about 200 yards away. And all this is to keep all my bugs in here that'll feed all my frogs and fish and birds, because we have a sanctuary where they all come. I have beavers here now. There was no standing water when I started. Now we have 5 miles of shoreline. Part of that shoreline was if you watched what I lost in the battles with the bank, trying to be my own lawyer. And unfortunately, I'm a lousy lawyer. But the idea is to try to defend what is right in this illusion and naivety that right will win. And I just want to assure you guys, you really got to get in there and take action. If you want to make something happen, you get in there and do it. Don't depend on somebody else doing it. And if it fails for a reason. It's to teach you a lesson so you'll be stronger later. And you'll learn from it. You got to see it that way. As I go through this transition for me, which is my son will be 35 and I'll be giving him a business, and without him to give it to, I don't want to do it anymore. I'm not going to have employees again. And so if I don't go ahead and get rid of it, I'm just going to pay to watch it rot. Okay, that was on the dirt. That's actually floaty. That's now about 4 feet in the air. Let me walk you around a second. I'm on a rock island I found. That one over there, that's Dragon's Lair. If you can see the eyes, that's the eyes of the dragon. And then over here, the water now goes all the way around. And you'll see what? Now that dog, first time he jumped out of a canoe in the water with some guests, he sank like a rock and didn't know how to swim. And one of the guests jumped out of the canoe and got down there and pulled him up out of the water. And he learned how to swim. He's got to be part something other than just pit bull, because that dog loves to jump and swim and fetch. You can't stop him. So look at this. We're going to have kayak come all the way around and come back in here in this canyon, and it'll be up to these rocks when I'm done, which means another 5 foot higher. And then this will be a separate water body from that one over there, which is part of a remediation program, because I found out I had issues on the property from the prior owners who had a foundry. And so by remediating the water and separating waters out, I can have clean water, and I can also have groundwater, and I can have all these things going on in the process of creating a food jungle and keeping that water that was toxic from getting into the San Marcos River, which is part of the big battle. Standing up for that and finding out that the bank didn't give a shit as long as they got money and held me for $400,000 in penalties, interest, and all the stuff they did on a $300,000 loan so they could take it. I didn't know that was possible. I was a naive kid. But we live and we learn. So what I'm trying to do right now is to go ahead and sell off some of this stuff. As Adam said, Dad, it's just too late. I'm not coming back. And frankly, he couldn't have taken on my job. He wasn't that kind of boy. He didn't have that kind of willpower or focus. But thank you. He did the greatest version of my song, the Song of Salvage. So if you haven't gone and listened to it, you should. It's a beautiful ballad about what are we going to do with all these trees now that we're harvesting them. What are we going to do with all of the possibilities that we have without imports to build tiny houses that are clean and they're not full of toxins and imports and stuff you have to manufacture, but the best of the old stuff that our forefathers harvested, gigantic trees like I'm walking on right now. Now these are boards that have been out here hanging out forever, and look at that. Look at the grain. Now these I just screwed together with these really cool screws. I found one right now. Okay, can you see this? Oh, there we go. Okay. These screws have a special head called a Torx head, and this is full of sand in this case. But if you're going to work on this old wood, you better get that head on that screw, or you're going to just trash screws, screw heads, drivers, everything, because no other screws will go through this wood. And then it has a special tip that has extra cutting power. Now there's some of these other portions up with this bigger head right here that keeps the board from pulling off when the wood swells, if it swells. In the older woods, it doesn't swell much because there's not a lot of soft tissue. In new wood, it's almost all soft tissue, and it will. Now, some of this that's on here is cypress, and some of this is longleaf pine. Either wood was grown in 50 inches of rain or right on the water, and so it's water rot resistant. This, the back of the cave, oh my goodness, holy cow. You could walk through that once a long time ago. I had that 11-foot deep underneath there. So right now, that's actually deep enough in water that if you're swimming, you could swim through the front, and when you come to the eyes of the dragon, you could come up for air if you wanted to, when you know about it later. And even if it's full of water, you can come up here and be able to breathe through these holes in the eyes. And you go in through, believe it or not, the mouth of the dragon. Is that not cool? Oh man, I'm telling you what. It was there. I dug it up and found it. It was already there. So, behind it are these big rocks. I mean, big rocks. Now, imagine, if you can, how did these rocks get created? Now, some people have a lot of speculation on it, but it turns out one of the possibilities is that there was a plasma bolt, a lightning strike. So intense, so hot, that it actually fused together these layers of clay and actually have crystalline formations and actually form these gigantic rocks. And you can see the difference. There's the gray, and then down below you can see layers of red clay and a little bit of the orange clay. They're all basically from the volcanoes and stuff that occurred. And you can see on the sides of it, where it's pulled away, that there was obviously a lot of volcanic activity prior to that rock resting in that spot, because that's all gray, blue-gray bentonite, which is extremely healthy. So when you swim in these waters, oh, by the way, they're about 8.2 pH. It's great. And they also have a lot of bentonite clay in them, which is great because it helps heal you, because you're made out of water and clay and ions, energy, flowing through a filament. Yeah, the filament inside of you, the light that goes from down at the base all the way up through you and out the top to illuminate. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and enlighten you all of your obligation to watch much more of this, but I want to show you my waterfall on the way. This is about 50 foot up. Now, mind you, I dug this out. It's about 1,000 trips up this thing on a Taguchi. That's a track lift. Hey, Keith, hey. Thank you. Appreciate it, Keith. You're the first message to show up. Must be the first person to be watching it. No, there's 4. Thank you, I appreciate it. This, if you can imagine, I'm going to hold this down here just for a second. Listen to this. Isn't this beautiful? Now, drive up this with 7,500 pounds in your bucket. And the only thing keeping you from rolling over backwards is 7,500 pounds on the front end of you. And you go up, and then you come back down, and you get another load, and you go back up, and you come back down about 1,000 times, maybe more. And then you have a hole that'll hold water. And the water will give life to all these things around. I have gardens on the walls. I can actually now have wall gardens and use the water system by lifting it up with wind or using the sun and being able to pump the water up. And people don't realize, but that water falling that far down, if I just collect it in little pools and have it run through a rotor, a generator, and then go down again another 10 feet and go through the pools again, every gallon is 8 pounds of work for every 4 feet it falls. It's 32 gallons of work that can be transferred into little generators for DC current that'll power little houses all the way around. Not on the front, well, maybe on the front, but that's pretty noisy. But all the way on this ridge between kayak bayous, which is on a video, by the way. A long time ago, I did a video with my son's Song of Salvage, and you see me kayaking around in 3/4 of a mile of shoreline. Wow, it gets so loud. Now, that would be a catchment point where you would go ahead and catch the water and then feed it out the backside of a barrel or whatever, but as long as it's feeding at a certain rate out of a tube with the Venturi effect, or using the Schauberger methods of creating the funneling, you can actually extract a huge amount of power without destroying the critters and the things in it, and heating it up and letting it go down and cooling off again, and it becomes super powerful, as Schauberger taught everybody before the United States stole the last of his secrets, and he refused to cooperate for using them for weapons, and he went back to Austria and died 5 days later in his 80s. A broken man, much like Tesla, Reich, Rife did succeed. Royal Rife did succeed in making his machine. I highly recommend, if you don't, you need to get one, or at least have some idea who has them. I think Christopher down in Florida is going to be using them too. But the Rife frequency generators, nobody has to make you healthy. Nobody cures you. It's a natural thing. It's in the earth. Now you watch. I'm walking barefoot. Why am I doing that? Because I'm grounding, and as I ground, I actually extract negative ions. There you go. Which, in return, I'm breathing positive ions, which are really intense. They cause inflammation. Now, he listens to his direction. Watch. Okay, where's he going? That way. See, he got lost. He didn't see where it went. Isn't he, man? He's such an intelligent dog. Being. A dog is a term for a being. Now, one last thing before I go. We got some great storms going on, some water, and that's helping fuel my filling of Dragon's Lair. Thank you, everybody that's followed. Thank you, Keith, actually, for being able to get through somehow the many, many layers of how, I don't know, FB keeps this from ever reaching anybody, but I really don't say anything that I feel is bad. I talk about the fact that I need to have weapons just in case. I'm right next to I-10, and if shit's just hit the fan and everybody's out there on I-10 going from Houston to somewhere and wants everything I got, well, you know what? They may not be as friendly as I want them to be, and I don't believe the police will make it in that traffic either, and so there may be some defenses. And for you all living elsewhere, I'm sorry. Thank you, Pod. How you doing? So glad to see you. And you're going to finish my song, man? I want to see it. Pod did a really good version of Song of Salvage, and it's a much more laid-back version he's working on. And hopefully soon we're going to have a third version of Song of Salvage from an elder. The other ones were kids. It's a different story. You can hear the story of life in the voice. Bye. Thank you. Okay, guys. Sorry, I got to get going. I have things I must do. I'm going to show you the waterfall. This is the main outlet. And that goes all the way up to Walden Pond, which then goes around Miracle Mountain, all the way to the back of it, where the Ship of Salvage Dreams sits. And then it goes up through several pathways, part of which I'm having to choke off and reroute because of these changes in what my property lines are. And then it ends up at Tantra, where all the water starts and flows, Tantra Pond, and what I hope one day will be a retreat for people to come visit. So for now, all these ponds you see, these are the upper ponds. Each of these can have critters in them and fish in them, and they feed the lower one 50 foot down. And they all funnel across from that way. There used to be a pipe. Hubble Oil contributed this, by the way, and Exxon, who abandoned the pipeline, and I dug it up and used it to transport water from the back of the property to the front of the property, and channels like this. Now that goes way down there into the lower 3/4 mile of more remediation water. And hey Kim, how you doing? I'm so glad that you like watching in our creations. We haven't done anything in a while. We created houses and stuff, but I've been land sculpting and learning permaculture and the fact that we needed water, and then we needed all these other things like papyrus and all these other things I have for remediation, cattails, and in the process we got beavers and otters and things I never even knew would come. But it's been quite the experience, and I want to go ahead and create, if I can, an embassy to teach this for people like Pod and others who have the talents to come in and say, hey, I can be a week down there and teach a seminar. But at the moment I couldn't do it because I don't have manpower, and I'm not going to be the guy to do that because I hate management. So down the road, what we're looking at is, hopefully soon, if I could pay off the debts using off all the assets that are down there in Gonzales alone, I'll have the biggest garage and chance to be able to teach, and maybe we'll have some videos. And here on the side of I-10, we can grow a vision still, using Adam's song and the concept of growing tiny baby house villages, which is very dear to me, as those of you who follow me will know. Please. Here we go. Right there you see the bridge. That's called the Uncovered Bridge. The covered bridge over untroubled waters that leads up to the Ship of Salvage Dreams, which has a vulture on it, ironically. This is Walden Pond, and that's Miracle Mountain. All of these are man-made, and these are just parts of the earth sculpting that distracted me and kept me going as we got toward this point in time when, after 6 years of battling, I'm going to change course. So, if you can, share. Maybe some of you will actually see the video. Oh, normally we get 700 people get to see it out of 70,000. The never-ending number is 70,000, although it did change. Remember that? For about 4 weeks, I got 290 followers for 4 weeks. Anybody came to this channel, saw 290 followers and 73,000 likes. That number has been there for 10 years. And the 70,000 followers had been there for 10 years, hadn't changed, no matter how many people signed up every week. But that's kind of how the game works, and I'm an old guy and didn't understand that. I thought this was a fair playing field. For those of you who don't know it, it's not. Kids, good luck. I'm going to get back. I just passed the property line. Oh, yeah. At some point, they proposed to make me leave. So, onward, Christian soldiers. Thank you, thank you.